Hello and welcome to this video series on how to build a grocery list app. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the routes we would need, as well as the various database functions we would need, such as the CRUD operations, the create, retrieve, update, and delete. Our app is going to be very similar to what you see here, where you can just enter, in this particular application, you can enter in an album, the artist name, the album title, the album release year, and the genre, and it'll add it to this list. And you can update it, delete it. So our grocery list app is going to be very similar to what you see here. We're going to use a few different tools. We're going to use Visual Studio Code. We're going to use DB Browser for SQL Lite. And we'll walk through that too. We'll do a few sample queries. And we'll test our database using this interface to make sure that we could query from our database first before we actually implement it into our code. So let's first go ahead and create a folder in which we're going to create our app that's going to hold the contents of our application. So I'm going to go to my desktop here, and I've already created an application called Grocery App. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio, and I'm going to open up that folder. Let's go to my desktop here. And here it is. The first thing I'm going to do here is I am going to install npm. There's a few different dependencies that I'm gonna need for this application. I'm going to use Express, which is the routing framework that we'll use. I'm going to use another dependency called SQLite 3, and so let's bring up our terminal. I'm going to open up a git bash terminal. Now, all right, so what I'm going to do is going to say npm init and then -y to skip the configuration of the package.json file. And I'm going to install Express. I'm also going to install a templating framework called Handlebars that I'll use in this application. So I'll say npm install HBS as the package name. I'll also install SQLite 3, and SQLite 3 is the driver that I would need to interact with my database. And then last but not least, I'm going to install Nodeman as a development dependency. And so I'll say npm install, I'll say save dev, and then Nodeman. All right, so if I take a look at my package.json file, I have, for the dev dependency, I have Nodeman. For my dependencies, I have Express, HBS, SQLite 3. I am going to create a file called app.js, which I'm going to do everything pretty much in app.js in terms of my routing. I'm also going to create a file called database.js. So I'm going to keep this folder structure pretty slim so that we can get the full context and not necessarily have a lot of folders that we're switching in between. And I also want to create a folder called view, which is going to hold the visual, the front end, the HTML code. So I'll create a file or a folder. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up our PowerPoint slide. Just for quicker iteration, I'm going to copy some code, and then I'll walk through it and explain it. And then in the next video, we'll talk about the routing that'll occur in this app, and then we'll get into some of the database stuff. So let's switch over to the PowerPoint. I'm going to jump back a few slides here. So I've already installed Express into my application. And so what I'm going to do here, I have some basic starter code that I want to use in this application. And then I'll use this and I'll modify this code just for quicker iteration. So here in my app.js, I am going to paste that code in. And again, all of my code for this application outside of the database will live in the app.js file, just to keep things pretty simple. I am going to delete some things here because I'm going to start kind of from a ground basis. I'll delete this contact, and I'll also delete this one here as well. The other thing I'm going to do here is I am going to create two views. One is going to be the index view. So I'll create a folder or a file. I clicked on views and I'm going to say index. And I'll name this HBS. And I'll just write a little bit of HTML code in this file to scaffold my project. This is the basic folder structure. I mean, basic HTML document structure. So head, you got body, and then here, title. And what I'm going to do is let's pause the video here. So what I've done here is I've installed my various dependencies within my package.json file. So I created the folder. I ran npm init. I haven't installed any version control such as git in this at this moment. I installed a few different packages: Express, HBS for the front end templating, and then SQLite 3, and then also a dev dependency called Nodeman. In the next video, I'm gonna spend the entire video talking about the routing we'll need for our application, and then we'll get into the database stuff. So stay tuned.